What's inattentive ADHD? It's losing or misplacing things. Where are my glasses? Yeah, okay, my bad. It's frequent daydreaming. It's not being great with details, but also being great with details, depending on what details it is. It's trouble starting and finishing projects. It's having difficulty focusing on just one thing. Side quests. Big deal. It's so many different things. Check this out. ADHD. There's 3 different types: inattentive, hyperactive, and combined, which is a combination of the 2. My ADHD is inattentive type. People think that means that I'm distracted by squirrels. Yeah, squirrel brain, Dory brain, all of those kinds of things. That's not what it is. And in fact, ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, it's not really an accurate name. It's not a deficit of attention. It's actually quite the opposite. Our brains take in all of the information that comes at us and has trouble focusing on what it is that we want to focus on. We often can't choose what it is our brains focus on and find it very difficult to switch into what it is that we need to focus on. So it's not that we have a deficit in anything. In fact, we have far more neural pathways than a neurotypical brain does, and they're going all the time. So the hyperactivity that most people understand ADHD to be in inattentive sits within my brain. My thoughts are going 100 miles an hour, and it's not just one train. It's why when, someone can talk about something and I start randomly talking about a different subject, they're like, where did you get to that? And then if I try and explain how my brain got to that, they have no idea how that works. But anybody else neurodivergent completely understands, because that's what happens. Our brains just dart down one pathway and then across another and then down another one and then down another laneway. And there we go. We arrive at something completely different to what we started at. But to us, it's just, that's what happens. Here's what ADHD inattentive type really is. Let's see if you can tick any of these off. Poor planning and organisational skills. Trouble focusing on the task at hand. Difficulty learning or organising new information. Frequent daydreaming. Difficulty following instructions. Trouble starting and finishing projects. Inability to focus or prioritise. Restlessness and edginess. Losing or misplacing things. Difficulty paying attention to details. Easily distracted. Tendency to procrastinate. I deal with all of those things all the time. And I've shared in previous videos some of the difficulties that I have and some of the things that I find most difficult about my inattentive ADHD type. Day to day, living with ADHD, it's kind of become this trendy thing where everyone's talking about it now. And just because there's more people talking about it doesn't mean that, it's a trendy diagnosis and everyone's a little bit ADHD. That's actually not a great thing. If you're someone who says that, please stop. That's not actually true. Whilst some of the things that people with ADHD do, other people do who don't have ADHD, the one thing that is massively different between those who display some of the characteristics and those who actually have ADHD is the fact that we can't fix it. We can't undo all of the difficulties that we face. And the difficulties that we face are constant. They don't go away. So for someone who's neurotypical who might experience some difficulty following some instructions, maybe it's because they're having a bad day. Well, by comparing that to someone who's neurodivergent, we're basically having a bad day every day, because that's something that our brains find very difficult. If someone gives me verbal instructions, I find it very hard to remember them. They have to be written down. And oftentimes for me, what I do is with work, I will screenshot different things so that I remember how to do whatever it is that I need to do. Because if I'm not doing that very often, it's not going to stick in my brain, and I'm going to need some instructions to go back on. So those kinds of things really help me. Written down instructions. Verbal instructions, don't even try. And when you're asking a child who has ADHD to do something and you give them more than one thing to do, they're not going to remember the second thing. They're probably not going to remember the first thing because the second thing has overwritten the first thing. It's like writing down on a whiteboard everything that you need them to do, but writing on top of what you'd previously written. So write, feed the dog. Right over the top of that, feed the cat. Do that 10 times and you can't read anything. That's what happens in my ADHD brain when you give me verbal instructions. So let's not do that. Having ADHD inattentive type is quite common for women. And it's more common for women than it is for men. Men usually present the hyperactive type. Inattentive type presents differently, but has some similar traits. But we're all different. And so some of the things you might relate to and other things you may not. Some of that comes down actually to masking too. So some things you've become very good at camouflaging, very good at hiding. You've learned how to overcome that particular issue for you. And I've done that with lots of things as well. But I'm learning also that unmasking sometimes can be very hard. But I'm also learning that some of the things that I find really difficult, I'm just going to always find difficult, and I've learned to accept that and ask for help where I need it. I'm still not very good at asking for help. I'm very independent. That's what happens when you're in burnout. Sometimes it's too tiring to take care of all of the things, and so you just don't do any of them, and that's when procrastination kicks in. Anyway, enough about me. Let me know in the comments what you related to, and let's get the conversation going. And please share this video with your friends and family. Let them know what it is that you experience and hopefully raise awareness for your friends and family about what you're experiencing and why, and that you're not being lazy. There's not something wrong with you. You're just different, and that's okay. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for being here. Catch you in the next one.